And just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number 1, Tyre Nichols is murdered by Memphis police. But you know, these murders are happening in a community near you. Lady wanted to bring this to you last week because, of course, it was all over the news. But we were still waiting for more information when this needed to go into production. In any case, here's what we know. On January 7th, Tyre Nichols was pulled over in Memphis, Tennessee for an alleged traffic infraction. The police said reckless driving, but based on the bullshit in this case, I suspect we will hear many more angles as to why they pulled Tyre over in the first place. At 8:24 p.m., Tyre is pulled over. Within 1 minute, Tyre is pulled out of the car and thrown to the ground. As an officer pepper sprays him and then attempts to use a stun gun on Tyre, he runs towards his mother's house. This is at 8:28 p.m. At 8:32 p.m., he is reapprehended, pepper sprayed, punched, hit with a baton, and kicked in the face for several minutes. At 8:41, the paramedics arrive on the scene, but no aid is given as Nichols sits on the ground, beaten and handcuffed. After several minutes, the paramedics begin to administer aid and transport Nichols to the hospital, where he died of his injuries 3 days later. Within half an hour, a tragedy occurred. It took 20 days for the officers to be fired for excessive use of force, 5 of them. And up until very recently, it was assumed that all of the officers involved were Black. But earlier this week, the paramedics were fired and a white officer was placed on paid administrative leave. There's quite a few things that need to be said about this case, but it has to begin with a family who has had their son, brother, and father stolen from them. All this week, the commentary on various news channels missed the whole entire point. Despite what civil rights leaders are saying, it doesn't fucking matter that all the cops were Black. The only thing that matters about that fact is that if these officers were not Black, it could have taken years and not days for someone to be charged or even meagerly held accountable. The police unions have been strangely silent. The news media has also been strangely silent about the fact that the Black woman who is the chief of police for the Memphis Police Department, you know, the one who everybody is applauding for swift action, actually oversaw a similar type unit as the one that was disbanded in Memphis after the murder of Tyre Nichols. And she was fired from the Atlanta Police Department for covering up the actions of officers under her charge. And each and every time we start even talking about Band-Aids to help police kill people less often, I mean, you know that's what we're really talking about when we talk about police reform, the police come around talking that shit about how hard the job is and how this isn't representative of all police. It's just a few bad apples, all that same bullshit. Now, I have to be honest with y'all that I'm struggling this week because here's what I see. I see that we allowed a movement to be defanged over dumb shit and with weird-ass accusations. I see that we're falling back into the same old bullshit that gets zero results, sermons over substance. I see some of us starting in the future and trying to work backwards and failing to bring people along. Everybody ain't an abolitionist, but that shouldn't stop us from making demands that lots of people can get behind. The only thing this chief of police has shown us is that where there's a will, there's a way. You can actually fire officers who lie and kill, especially when there's no police association in the way to distort and lie and contort the truth. You can disband these rogue outfits that are designed to terrorize Black communities as a so-called strategy to fight crime. And what that means is that more is possible. And oh my loves, we deserve so much more than this bullshit. My wish for 2023 is that all the players get together and hash this shit out. Not the shit that's politically possible if we get a few more yards of kente cloth, but the shit that's possible if and when we stand together and actually have each other's backs. I hope y'all hear me though. Other things Lady just ain't gonna do this week is Atlanta making moves to build Cop City, where they're gonna train more police to do shit like what happened in Memphis. Speaking of complete and utter bullshit, at the same time that Tyre Nichols was being murdered, Atlanta was on some weird shit and killed a person named Manuel Tehran, who was protesting a police training center that folks are trying to build here in the A that would train cops to do exactly what they did to Tyre. Oh, yeah, I'm serious about this shit. Cop City is what city officials refer to as the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, a $90 million project that would be built on an 85-acre site to train police and firefighters. In addition to classroom buildings and administrative offices, the facility would include a shooting range, a driving course to practice high-speed chases, and a burn building for firefighters to practice putting out fires. It also would include a mock village featuring a fake home, a nightclub, and a convenience store so that police can practice raids. Officials say that they are building the training campus to help with recruitment and retention because morale is low. Now, I wish the fuck somebody would spend $90 million on me when my motherfucking morale is low, because real talk, inflation is a problem. I'm trying to finalize a whole ass divorce. I got shit on my wish list that's out of my reach for now. And Beyonce broke our goddamn internet talking about she having a tour. So I surely could use, and know Black folks all over could surely use $90 million to help boost our morale. But all jokes aside, this shit is ridiculous. And if it didn't have such serious consequences, it might even be funny. Side note, the opposition here is largely being reported as environmental, with some nods to people being opposed to training cops, in the art of urban warfare. And maybe that's the irony of it all. Tyre Nichols is murdered by police, and a few days after officers are charged and fired, Black Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens announces that Cop City will move forward. What a legacy, bro. And then the white-led, white-focused environmental groups is mad about the spotted owl. You really can't make this shit up. And during Black People's Month, no less. Y'all should be ashamed of y'all damn selves. Now, we will keep discussing this and other items of complete fuckery right here on this pod, so stay tuned for more info on how you can take action. Other things that Lady just ain't gonna do this week is Marjorie Taylor Greene and another COVID denier being appointed to, drumroll please, the COVID-19 Oversight Committee. So another item on today's list of you cannot make this shit up. Republicans continue to move forward their agenda of no plans, no proposals, and no fucking policies. But they are aligned on getting back what they feel was stolen from them. First on the list, putting Marjorie Taylor Greene back in the rotation and putting her ass back on committees after she was removed from them because she threatened violence against sitting legislators. But hey, I digress. The gag is not even putting her back on committees, but instead putting her on the COVID-19 Oversight Committee, even though, like the rest of reality, she is a COVID denier. Child. In the meantime, they also made a big spectacle this week over removing Representative Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Services Committee. And Lord Jesus, we are in for a long 2 years. Let's go to the list of things that Lady loves this week, though. And number one, and always motherfucking number one on my list, is Black people and Black Futures Month. Now, cue up your familiar refrain that Black history is American history and should be celebrated 365 days a year. It should. But seriously, even though Black History Month be getting on my fucking nerves, in my older disposition, I'm learning to appreciate having a month dedicated to reflecting on all that we've accomplished and all the shit we still have left to do. Now, without a doubt, the contributions, innovations, resistance, and resilience of Black people throughout the diaspora is invaluable to understanding ourselves, our culture, and our country. And more than that, what is possible when we demand the right to unfettered humanity? Give it up for Black people, y'all. We lit. Other things Lady loves this week is Missy Elliott being nominated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, finally, the legend, the fantastic and fabulous Missy Elliott has been nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame alongside 14 other nominees. And if she's selected, she would become the first female hip-hop artist ever to receive the honor. We will find out in May whether or not she's been selected. But until then, yes, Missy, yes! And other news Lady loves this week, Beyonce is ready to take all our money, honey, and I'm here for it. Now, Queen Bey herself announced that she is going on tour, and yo ass better get your pocketbook ready because tickets go on sale next week. Now, I already know Beyonce about to get all my damn money, and you know what? Girl, just take the shit. Take it. It's yours, queen. It's yours. Welcome back to Ladies Love Notes, where we give you all of the real about being single and dating in your 40s. Now, last week I shared with y'all a very unfortunate scenario, and I posed a question about what we do about trash niggas in the movement. I'm still collecting your responses, so please keep those coming. Click the link in our bio on our Instagram to sound off. And as always, thank you for letting me share that. It's been on my heart for a minute. Anyway, child, in this week's installment of Ladies Love Notes, and perhaps building off of our theme from last week, I want to share another gem that I've recently been working through. And as always, I need y'all to sound off if you feel me on this one. So look, I'm reading this book right now, and it's a book on boundaries. I mean, my therapist sent the shit to me in the mail because obvi, not so subtly, she's trying to tell me something. The book is called Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab. And so far, I am all the way into it. Highly recommend this book. Let's get her on the pod. When I think back over the last year, I'm reflecting on all the places in my life where boundaries could have really helped me, and all the places in my life where they still can. Now, don't get me wrong. I do have boundaries in certain places in my life, and sometimes I even surprise myself, actually, with how I do it. I set boundaries in my work life. Somebody could be throwing a whole ass temper tantrum, and I can still come back to, okay, so this is what I need to see happen moving forward. Here are my expectations about how that happens. Are you on board? I have been praised, and I mean praised, for my ability to set boundaries in certain areas of my life. But when it comes to relationships, listen, 3 years of hard work and therapy, and I am still working on it, child. Now, I realize that some of what is at play here is actually some childhood shit. Having a parent that didn't know how to be a parent and was in and out of my life, my whole life, has me wanting to be chosen. We've talked about this before on the pod, and I shared with y'all that one of my all-time favorite jams is International Players Anthem by UGK, and in it they state, "We trying to get chose." Woo! Child, whatever they say that shit, I feel it. Now, having somebody in and out of your life on any level can spur some real attachment issues. Anxious attachment, to be precise, where you bend, flex, accommodate, and capitulate in order to not lose somebody, to have them choose you. Now, the problem is that over time, because your boundaries are porous, it can cause resentment and other problems because you have needs that aren't getting met. Whew, Jesus, can you feel me? Well, dear ones, my mom used to say, you teach people how to treat you. And I realized the other day that I've been the recipient and the promoter of advice that has been helpful in some situations, but actually harmful in others. Teaching people how to treat you, on the one hand, can be good in the sense that you model exactly how it is that you would like to be in relationship with someone, including boundary setting when some kind of behavior doesn't work for you. But on the other hand, this behavior can be problematic, especially when you're spending a lot of time teaching someone how to treat you instead of making a time-bound assessment about whether or not to remain in relationship with someone. Time-bound meaning, what's my deadline on this? So look, I started thinking about this because I've been talking to somebody for a few months now. It's been nice on a few levels, but there's this persistent challenge. I'm super cool with us trying to figure out if we want to stand still together for a while. I think that kind of shit takes time, and it's okay to take our time with that. But for me though, I need someone who's consistent. For him, he needs somebody who's flexible. And the way those challenges play out has me looking at where I need stronger and clearer boundaries and what my deadline is, time-bound. Now, the thing about boundaries is that it's not just about setting them, it's about enforcing them. Not like police enforcement, but consistency in application type of enforcement. Y'all laughing, but I think for people who are learning how to set boundaries, it can really be like this. You could be hella rigid or you could be hella weak ass about it. And it takes a while to find the sweet spot. The other thing about boundaries is that people gon' test your shit, consciously and unconsciously. Niggas will ignore them, push them, try to negotiate them, all the things. It's a very human response to limits and guideposts. And sometimes to understand your shape, you gotta know where you begin and where you end. That's why we be pushing shit. So we're at a point where I've named my boundaries and I'm watching to see if he can respect them. Yeah. But more than that, can you meet me there? And I'm not sure if he can yet. Meeting me there is still deeply inconsistent. And I've given myself a deadline to decide when this is done for me. Now, all this got me to thinking. This boundary business is hard-ass work because it is fundamentally calling us to love on ourselves and our wounds as we reach for what we long for. Connection, closeness, stability, consistency, love. As we approach Valentine's Day, dreaded by some and loved by others, no pun intended, I'm reminding myself of two key pieces of advice. Number one, sometimes teaching people how to treat you means choosing yourself. When all else fails, it's just you out here trying to keep yourself alive and do right by yourself. Choosing you is never, ever the wrong answer. Now, I'm enforcing my boundaries right now, and he's figuring out how to relate to it. It's interesting to watch, but it's even more interesting to pay attention to the conversations I'm having with myself, reminding myself that it's actually okay to have boundaries, even if it's uncomfortable for someone else. Maybe the way to teach someone how to treat you is to model it with how you treat yourself. I'm not actually waiting on someone else to choose me. I'm waiting for me to choose me. Marinate on that shit for a minute. But other words of wisdom from my singles out there trying to navigate these cold-ass streets: don't have relationship problems with people you're not in a relationship with. Say it again with me for full understanding. Don't have relationship problems with people you're not in a relationship with. I think it's another component, I'm just guessing, of choosing yourself.